Hello, Dale Stafford.
Good morning, Mark Atwood. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Are you?
I'm excellent, yeah. Thanks for asking.
Well, firstly, thank you very much for coming on to my Inspirational People part of markatwood.com. You've been inspiring me for about 5 years now.
Oh, it's very kind of you to say.
Well, I've known you for about 5 years. You didn't know that you'd inspired me for 5 years.
I take that as a compliment, thank you.
Well, it is a compliment. In terms of business people, you never fail to amaze me with your ebullience, confidence. Well, confidence is maybe the wrong word. It's more about excitement about life. That's one of the things about you that I love. And I know my wife loves. Well, she's the one who met you first, wasn't she?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for this blog, I was wondering if you could be kind enough to sort of give us a bit of history, because you've been in business quite a long time, haven't you?
Wow. Yeah. I've actually been working for nearly 40 years, I kind of realised the other day, which is somewhat shocking. Obviously, I only started working when I was 5, Mark,
yeah,
you understand.
Of course, I do.
I started my own business in 1980, which seems a really long time ago.
Yeah, different world.
It was actually.
Totally different world.
Because, believe it or not, we had manual typewriters.
Yeah.
Now, you see, that sounds a bit archaic, doesn't it? And word processing was just coming in, and computers were like, whoa, you had one in the corner, if you were lucky.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it seems a long time ago. That's because it is. But, nothing changes, but it stays the same, as they say. And
change within a permanence, I think Sartre said about the human condition, and I think that's true in business too.
I think so, because at the time I started in business, there was a recession on.
Yeah.
And
Thatcher had just come in.
We'd just had
the winter of discontent.
We certainly had. Yeah. And there was 1 million people unemployed.
In fact, that was just after Dennis Healey had gone cap in hand to the IMF, Britain was being bailed out, which sounds very similar to what's going on at the moment, doesn't it?
There's this deja vu. So that was the situation. We've got 2 million plus unemployed now. Yeah. It's not really spoken about.
I think it's a lot more than that, actually, because they changed the way they count the statistics.
Yes.
Many, many times. I mean, I think Mrs. Thatcher changed it about 17 times between 1980 and 1983.
I should think so.
If I remember my economics degree.
Well, I don't have an economics degree, but I was there involved in a number of government training programmes, because my business was around training. So
let's go back a little bit. Because did you say you started work in 1980, or you started?
No, I started work in about 1974, 75.
That was a good year. That's when Tom Baker became Doctor Who. That was a good year.
Oh, what? Okay. Well, I don't count things in Doctor Who years.
I do.
Yeah, so does my other half. But no.
So how did you get into the working world?
I didn't know what I wanted to do, which I think is pretty common. I'd been brought up in probably a bit of an unusual background, in that my parents were
showbiz, weren't
in the theatre, the illegitimate theatre, darling. My dad was the straight man in a comedy double act.
Yeah, that's right.
And my mum was an equilibrist and dancer.
What is that?
Well, you know what a dancer is. She was an equilibrist is a balancer.
Right.
So she would balance. She was with 2 chaps in an act, and they would balance on her, and she would hold them up, and this, that, and the other. So all very interesting. But the point is, I wasn't brought up in the kind of environment where mum and dad went out to work at the office.
Yeah, there was no 9 to 5.
No, absolutely no 9 to 5. Yeah. They went to work in the theatre.
Yeah. Were you living out of a suitcase, or you?
Well, my dad always said I was born in a trunk. So I think I was actually that person who was born in a trunk. The legend goes that they used to put me to sleep in a drawer in the dressing room. We travelled around, as you can imagine, here, there, and everywhere, because they were going up and down the country to all the variety theatres and abroad. But for me, a workplace was full of lights and music and people who wanted to go to work. You know, people wanted to go to work. They used to go and sit in the cafes in the daytime talking about when they were going to go to work. Nobody was like, God, I've got to go to work today. So I suppose I wasn't brought up with that mindset that work was, boring and you shouldn't want to do it. And also the fact that if there was nobody in the audience, that was a problem. You needed customers. Customers were really good. People in the theatre, they want to have a full audience. They want it to be busy. So I'd also not got a model for being employed. I mean, if you're in the theatre, if you're in show business, you are not employed. You are permanently looking for the next job.
Yeah.
So that's got a lot of similarities, I think, with being in your own business. Because many times people have said to me, well, how did you go into business? Well, I didn't really think that was a big step to go into business, because I didn't perceive that it was insecure, really. My perception was that if you were good at what you did, you would probably get work, because that's what happens in the theatre.
Yeah.
If you are a good act, you don't have to be famous. You don't have to be the top of the bill. You don't have to be, the person that's allegedly earning gazillion pounds. But you can make a very, very nice living and a great reputation for being a master of your craft. And so I suppose that was my mindset.
So you didn't have the fear that a lot of people have when it comes to setting up their own business?
I had, you kind of think, well, what will I do if it doesn't go right? But I was also in an environment that people were frightened all the time of going on the stage. People who were famous, that you would think, oh, they wouldn't be frightened of doing it. So fear was prevalent, because it's a bit scary to walk out on a stage of 2,500 people and expose yourself in that way to them liking you or hating you and clapping or booing or whatever. So fear was also, I suppose, part of it, but that didn't stop people doing it. So I couldn't say I wasn't nervous, because you have no idea whether something's going to be a success or not, and until you do it. And success doesn't happen immediately. You're not immediately good at something. Even anybody you can think of, Muhammad Ali or any household name, they weren't brilliant the first day they started to do it.
No.
So I suppose I just thought, it's a bit scary. No, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this before. But hey, I'll give it my best shot.
So you didn't want to follow the family footsteps then?
I didn't really, because it is very appealing, don't get me wrong, but it isn't glamorous in the way people think it's glamorous, because you're trailing around the place, and that really wasn't for me, because I'm a bit of a home bird.
Right, okay.
So I thought, I suppose in a way, when you are training and working with people, I think there's an element of performance in there anyway.
Well, I was going to come to that, actually, because it is showbiz in a way, isn't it?
I think the whole of life is. Didn't somebody once say? Shakespeare said, the world's a stage, and I suppose this feels a little bit kind of psychoanalytical, Mark, but I suppose in my mind I always saw it like that.
Yeah.
That every time you did something, you were actually, there was a performance happening. And how good did you want it to be? Yeah, so I think probably did at some level.
Yeah, I guess you did. But take me back to your first job then. What you went into the working world.
I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I did umpteen things, from working at Kendall's in Manchester. That bored me rigid. I then went to teacher training college. Wasn't particularly impressed how that was handled. And then the classic words were spoken, well, why don't you go and do a secretarial course? You can always fall back on it.
Oh, I've heard that so many times.
Yeah. Okay. Well, of course, nobody nowadays calls himself a secretary, do they? And even then, it wasn't particularly, it wasn't seen as something great to do. But in my view, it was, well, if you're a senior secretary or PA, you're actually working for the people that run the business. What could be bad about that? That's not a problem. So I quite enjoyed it. And then I got an opportunity through my then fiancé, husband now, to have a go at setting up our own thing.
Really?
Yeah.
So how did that come about?
Well, he was in computer programming, which again it sounds.
Well, that's pioneering days, isn't it?
Well, it was pioneering days.
That's back in
79.
COBOL and BASIC days.
Well,
I only said that because I knew you wouldn't know what I was saying.
Well, I think he did have that on his CV, Mark. So yeah, he was earning good money, and so that was the opportunity to fund, if you like, this experiment, and could we start a business, which I think is a good way to do it, really, because you're probably not going to turn a tap on of money coming in most businesses. It takes time to develop your customer base, and you've got a lot of spending to do early doors. So I probably had a bit of a charmed entree into business.
But what was the big idea then? What was the
big idea? Because I'd done a secretarial course, all they taught you was shorthand and typing, which of course that's important. But I think it's so much more than that makes people successful. It's not just having the skill, it's how you put it all together. And I didn't perceive that the college that I'd been to paid any attention to how you were going to be in doing that job. So there was no kind of package put together of all the interpersonal stuff.
Right.
Which, I suppose because of my background, to me, everybody was smiley and engaging and lively. And I used to observe a lot of organisations when it was like, like nearly dead. What's all that about? You're going to be dead for a long time. So I'd rather look like I'm alive when I'm alive.
Yeah.
And that does take energy.
Yeah.
That does take a lot of energy. But it makes me feel better. And I'm sure it makes other people feel better. So maybe I had a bit of a light turned underneath that it comes from background. And we're all affected by those early experiences.
Yeah.
So that was the big vision was that I wanted to turn out people, given the climate, which was, you're not going to get a job, was the kind of message, that, they would get a job because there are always jobs.
Yeah.
There are always jobs for people who present themselves properly and have skills that employers want. I believe that.
So do I.
Now, I had 7 students to start with, just 7 people.
How did you get those?
I put an advert in the local paper.
Yeah. Back when newspaper advertising worked.
Back when, little tiny newspaper advert. I got 8 inquiries. I didn't have any premises. I didn't have anything at all. But my view was I was going to go and see these people, and if I got 5 people, I was going to start. I hadn't taken any money or anything like that, wouldn't do that. And I interviewed people at home, at their homes, and said it's part of the personal service. I'm going to come and see you. So I had 8 inquiries. I saw 8 people and converted 7, which I now know is actually quite good.
That's a phenomenal
quite a good conversion rate.
Yeah.
But I think it was because I actually did believe what I was saying. There was no way I wasn't going to get those people jobs. And I think that probably came through.
So the idea was to train these people,
so
get them to present, and then help them get a job.
Absolutely. It wasn't just I was going to teach them the skills. I was going to take ownership of getting them to a point that they could go for interviews and get a job.
Wow.
In fact, I got them work experience, which doesn't sound anything now. But most people have no idea what business is. They've been at school or college. They don't know what it's like, so it's a bit scary. Neither do they know what they're signing up for, actually. I mean, when you say, I want to be a this or a that or another, you haven't got any idea of what that thing is.
Yeah, and school doesn't help and college doesn't help with that. So you were filling a gap there, and you had a hungry market because there were loads of people that were looking for work but didn't know how to get it.
Absolutely. And I suppose I was fortunate in that because it was all fee paying, people had to pay to come because I wasn't government funded. And so I suppose it was a leap of faith from these people that they would actually invest. But they did all get jobs. So
it worked.
It definitely worked, yeah. And quite a few of those people that came had not been successful at school. They hadn't liked school.
Yeah.
So I think that was even more of a...
Yeah, well, they're often the best people to employ, I think.
Hey, listen, I was one of those. I wasn't mad keen on school.
Neither was I.
No, I think people are generally great. I think a lot of people, however, get switched off and they go into this kind of idle mode. I don't mean idle in terms of lazy, but they're just kind of
Well, they just get into a routine and they stop living, don't they?
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, you just go around a supermarket, it's like everybody's on Mogadon.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, everybody's kind of half asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I like you, see, because you're not.
No, I never have been.
You never have been, no.
No, because I just think when you're up, so you're on. My husband wouldn't agree with you.
You're on. You're on
like,
stage.
Oh, I forgot to. Yeah, but it is a bit like that. It's and I was brought up. Again, you come back to these kind of mantras that we all have in our heads that we're maybe not aware that we've got them.
Oh, yes.
We are kind of programmed, and
I think we're definitely programmed.
Yeah, but we're programmed by our parents and influential.
But they've been
people.
programmed, and
They've been programmed. But one of the things that I can hear my dad saying is, you never know who you're going to meet. You never know who's going to be watching you. So every time you meet somebody, every time you do something, do it thinking this could be the big opportunity that you were looking for. And I can honestly say I do that. No matter where I am going, it could be a little business somewhere in a little tiny room. I'll do exactly the same thing as if I was going to the biggest, most important, allegedly, event.
I think that's great advice.
Because you don't know.
No, you don't.
And that came from my father kind of saying, you never know in his business what agent was going to be out there. So, and you don't. And the law of sod is alive and well and kicking, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, the day you're having a bad day is going to be the day that the person who you were really hoping...
Big chance, yeah.
Yeah. And also, I suppose, one of the things as well, and I say this to my children, one of whom is working for themselves already, that it's really important to enjoy the journey. Because when you get there, wherever there is, it is not going to be what you thought.
No, it's not.
It's not. It isn't there. It's here. Whatever it is you think you're after, it isn't there.
That's right.
Because there isn't anywhere. It's here now. So if you're not enjoying yourself now, if you're not engaged now, if you don't find what you're doing interesting now, what the hell makes you think that when you get to this imaginary place that it's all going to be wonderful? It will probably be a disappointment.
It's all about being present, isn't it?
Well, it's the getting there that's the interesting bit. And when you that's my experience anyway, that it's the thinking about it and the being engaged in doing it. And then when you actually achieve it, it's nice for a minute, two. And then for me, I'm thinking, okay, where's the next thing that I want to be doing? So it's definitely the getting there. And that's how you grow your muscle. That's how you develop your resilience. That's how you learn stuff. That's the fun of it.
So you started the business in 1980. You had an amazing 90+% conversion rate. You had seven people. You got them all into work. And then this business grew really quickly, didn't it?
It can be. It depends. My aspiration, Mark, wasn't actually to have a massive business. And I kind of read stuff now that says women run different businesses from men. Okay, well, I didn't know that 30 odd years ago. My motivation was that I wanted freedom. I wanted to be able to do things the way I wanted to do it, to my standards, and to be able to go and pick my children up from school or just do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it.
Did you
I didn't have children at the time. Pardon?
Did you achieve that?
To a degree, because I think I fell into the trap which a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners fall into, in that the business can consume you. Mm-hmm. This is a trap. This is not a good thing. It's a byproduct of your enthusiasm and your ownership and your aspiration for your business. So it's kind of part of the beast. You need it. You need to have those things, but it's the dark side of that kind of individual.
Yeah.
And nobody talked to me about that, because I think entrepreneurs and people that start their own business, we're actually kind of a bit mavericky very often. We're not the kind of group therapy type of people that start their own businesses, usually.
No.
So we're good at doing things on our own, and that's how it gets going.
Yeah.
But actually, the next stage is the not doing things on your own, and
you need people to run it.
Developing a different way of going about things. So you can do that up to a point, and then there is a transformation that needs to happen in your thinking. Yeah. And I think if you want to get to the point where the business is working for you rather than you working for it, that transformation, I think, has to happen for most people, and I'm not sure how easy and natural it is for most people. You know, it'll be something that causes you to have that road to Damascus revelation in your development. So that's what causes me now that I've sold my business and still work with other businesses, to try and help them get to that point a lot sooner than I did.
Yeah.
So no, I wouldn't say my business grew quickly, because in a way I wanted, my drive was for it to be quality, and I wanted a good reputation. I wanted whoever wanted the service that I provided for us to be the business of choice that they would pick. And I suppose I wanted it all in my control.
But I do remember seeing a picture of you meeting the Prime Minister in the 80s.
That was actually, that was Mrs. Thatcher in about 91, 92, when we got the Investors in People Award.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So you did get quite, I think you were chair of an organisation when Katie met you. So you got quite well known, at least locally, didn't you?
Well, yeah, but it was my business was fairly local, because I wanted to go home. Yeah. And I wanted to have a proper life. Yeah. You know, I suppose that maybe this, I can't speak for men, but certainly as a female, I wanted it all. I wanted to be able to be a good mum. And to have family time, and that does rub up against being a businesswoman. Yeah. They are both full-time jobs, actually. But being a bit greedy, I wanted both. And I was fortunate in that I had a lot of family support. I'm a great believer in family. And I think there's a paradox, isn't there, in the modern world, that just as women are going out to work, families are fragmented and dispersed, so we don't have family support. And this is a bit of an inconvenience, because families are great, and I've got a great family. So that helped me a lot. So it was local, so I was known locally.
Yeah, but did you find it, how, being a woman in business? Yeah. There weren't that many. I mean, I think there's a lot more now than there were. Yeah. Would that be a correct?
I think so. I don't think there were very many at all. You were kind of, whoa, there's a woman in business.
Did you find that difficult? Did you come up against?
I thought it was amazing. People have said to me over the years, isn't it difficult to be a woman in a business? I think the first step in a business is you've got to get noticed. Well, if you walk into a room and everybody else is a man and you're a woman, this is not a disadvantage.
No, it's not.
And I don't think it's sexist, or, I just think it's a fact of life. Get over it. So I have never felt that it's been a problem at all. I am female, and that's it.
Good.
And I've never wanted to be a man either.
Good.
So I hope that now women can actually feel that they can unashamedly be female. Yeah. I suppose in a way back then I tried to do my mummy stuff more covertly. Although I did take my baby into work when I could.
Yeah.
But hopefully we've moved on from that.
Yeah, I think
for the good.
Yeah, so do I. Absolutely. So you ran that business for 20 plus years?
Nearly 26 years, yeah.
26 years. And then sold it?
I did.
Was that a good experience?
It's an interesting experience because, again, I suppose it sounds a bit mad, and unless you're an owner-manager of a business, you'd probably think that woman is completely mad. But it felt like my first baby. When you actually create a business from nothing, it's more than a job. I mean, it isn't a job. Because people used to talk to me and say, they used to talk in career terms. Well, it's not a career, it's my life. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs and owner managers, where is the line between their business and them? This is unhealthy. This is not a good thing. But I think it is true. So you were still very emotionally attached to it when you sold it? Absolutely. And I think I'd become less so. But I think this is part of the transformational thing that needs to happen for it to be healthy and for your business to develop as to the degree it's capable of doing, hangs on the development of the key people in it. And as the owner-manager, you are a big presence in your business. But you've got the power and the clout to actually make it everybody else's fault if things aren't going as you want to go. So it's a funny old position to be in. So I don't think I'm on my own to find the process of selling a difficult one. And it's hard for other people. My husband couldn't understand it. Said, you've just sold, you've got all that money in the bank. Why are you not happy? What's the problem? What is your problem? And at one level, it was lovely. It's great, it's fantastic. But, having a mission, having purpose, feeling like you do something that matters. So did you get a bit depressed after? I got very flat. I did get flat after it. Most definitely. Because your identity is tied up with this thing. And also it takes a lot of your time and attention for a lot of years. So actually going through that, I think it was really good. It wasn't particularly nice. But then again, I do think that it is those difficulties, and it sounds bleh, but it's true. You don't grow when it's easy. You don't grow when it's easy. You only grow when you are being stretched. And the thing that is easy to you, you've got naturally anyway. So being smiley and energetic and, having an optimistic outlook, I didn't have to work for that. That is just... That is me. So that's not difficult. But there are other things that are difficult. Well, then there's rebirth, isn't there? Because you then reinvented yourself. Did I? Well, I think, because you stopped being the person that ran this business to being somebody that helped other businesses. Yeah, and I like it a lot. Yeah. I do like it a lot. How long have you been doing that for now? About 5 years now, because I had a 3-year restrictive covenant. So now people hire Dale... to go in and sort them out. I wouldn't say I sort them out. That isn't what I do. Because I work with very clever, capable people. Absolutely not. And I'm in awe and feel, it's very humbling actually when people say, will you come and help us? So, no, I don't sort them out. I think I just help them look at things differently so they are able to see a range of options that were there before, they just couldn't see them. And also to get them into the right state so that they feel as best they can to actually operate to their best level. Because if you're not in the right state, what's the point? What's the point? Absolutely. You're a long time dead. I do think that. And you can be so close up to things, which I suppose is the big thing that I help them with. You can be so involved with it. Get some perspective. You can't see it. But when you walk in as a stranger, it's like, you can see what's going on. It's like watching a play.
Yeah, yeah.
And some businesses, I call it EastEnders. They're in EastEnders. There's all sorts of drama going on. And I'll kind of say, did you know you're in EastEnders here? Do you want to be EastEnders, or would you like to be something else?
And what happens when you walk out? Does somebody play the drum?
Yeah. But you get what I mean.
I do, yeah.
There's stuff that's going on.
Well, you came and did it with our business. Look at that drama. You came into my office one day, and I was really on one, wasn't I? Because I'd lost perspective, and you helped me enormously. Oh. Even though I don't even know if I've told you that before.
Well, and it doesn't matter that you haven't. Because my husband calls me the Littlest Hobo. Don't really remember that, because I hardly remember it, but apparently it was this dog that used to go around and kind of help people and then move on.
Yeah. It was like the opposite of the Incredible Hulk.
Was he? Well, I don't really remember the programme that well.
It was the same story, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, week by week.
So it was, one of the archetype thing.
Yeah.
So, he calls me the Littlest Hobo. So I think sometimes the biggest, and it's something you have to kind of get over, really, or kind of realise, none of us know the effect we have on other people.
No, we don't.
None of us. And that's actually quite sobering. If we're very lucky, someone might tell us a wonderful thing that makes you feel really, really pleased.
Yeah.
But whatever change they make happen, and many a times people will say, you did this, Dale, you did that. I didn't do it. All I did, maybe, was shine a light on it.
Well, that is doing it, in effect,
No, it isn't doing it. It's helping you spot what it might be. Then the person has got to do it.
But people need that.
I think it's very helpful.
Yeah.
And the closer it is to you, the potentially more impactful it is, paradoxically, it's often hard to see.
Yeah.
And if somebody tells you that knows you and loves you, chances are we're going to tell them to get knotted.
Yeah.
Because the truth hurts. What's that saying? The truth will you off, but the truth will set you free.
Oh, that one, yeah.
It'll you off first.
That's the Manchester
but then it'll set you through. Yeah, and I think that's true. There's benefit in it being somebody who's not emotionally attached. Nevertheless really cares about you. But there's a degree of selfishness in that. It's just, you want to feel like you're actually enabling somebody to not have to go through something that is totally optional.
Yeah.
But they don't know that. It doesn't have to be like this. It could be another way.
So this work that you've been doing for the last 5 years led you to write a book?
It did. So,
do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah. Well, I suppose, again, we have these messages in our head, don't we, these mantras. And I never saw myself as academic. And I never wanted to go to university. And throughout my career, you kind of meet people who have got what I call qualification inflation. They've got loads of them. Ologies coming out their ears.
Yeah.
And somehow or other, they get listened to.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought, this is probably not appropriate. This isn't necessarily right, because who is more qualified to talk about what it takes to be in business and to be successful? Somebody that's done it, or somebody that looks at it and, hasn't actually done it. I suppose it's the difference between education and training. Have you heard this one?
No,
if your 14-year-old son or daughter came home and said, "Dad, I've had some sex education today," how would you feel?
Yeah.
And then if they came home and said, "I've had some sex training," it's different, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, slightly.
So, just a bit different. So, I'm all for education. I think it's an absolutely wonderful thing. However,
training's more fun.
Training probably is more fun, but actually doing it is the best fun.
Yeah.
And in business, I'm not sure you can actually be taught about business. You could read a book. You can read a book about cash flow. It's not going to affect you at all. You have a cash flow problem, you're going to be affected. That's going to have a feeling that goes, with it. And you could read a book on it, and I don't care. You will not understand it as well as somebody who has been through it.
Absolutely.
So what I wanted to do, I suppose, is prove to myself that I could, for one, and to legitimise my view a bit more, my approach. So I kind of have gone on the people side of things, because I don't think there's no such thing as business. There's just people doing stuff.
Yeah.
And we call it business.
Yeah.
There's no magic to it, but people can be magical.
Yep.
They are the difference in business. If you look at businesses, they could be doing exactly the same thing, the same technology, but one business is amazing and the other one isn't.
Well, look at Apple versus Dell, for example.
Well, you see, there you've gone into computers again.
Sorry.
I'll take your word.
Sorry.
I'll take your word for it. But I suppose I know sufficient about Apple. It has a feel about it. It conveys something.
Well, it's better.
It's.
Excuse me.
Yeah, a lot of people would argue as
that.
But I do think people are the key.
Yes, I agree.
And the world is moving so fast nowadays, technologically in particular. What is it worth focusing on that
people.
You could actually do something about? People and yourself. And it's because that is the only thing on this planet you've got control over.
Allegedly.
Yeah, I believe that to be the case.
Yeah.
So, and there is a lot of emphasis on the outer world.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I'm not so sure people talk enough about human beings thinking about themselves, not in a selfish way. But I love the saying, you can't give away what you haven't got.
Yeah.
So if you don't feel okay about yourself, it's going to be really difficult to be okay with other people.
That's true.
So I think that is the starting point, and you can do so much with that. So that's where I've started, the Book of Job.
The Book of Job.
Yeah, the business of people.
Which is the most interesting book, a business book I've ever seen in terms of how it looks and what's in it. I mean, there's not a business book like... Do you want to hold it up to the camera?
Yeah, I'm going to have to put my coffee down. That was intentional because, again, who said business can't be fun?
No.
I don't vote for that.
No.
Business should be fun.
Agreed.
Who said you can't have a sense of humour about things? I think if things are tough, and if you're in business, don't let anybody tell you it's easy. They're lying.
Yeah, they are.
They are lying. Don't let them tell you that it's easy. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. It is hard. It's relentless. It takes loads of energy. You don't always get what you want. And for the scholars amongst the people that are watching it, and the Book of Job, because it's a play on Book of Job, asks the question, why do good men suffer? And I suppose when I go into businesses, and I can remember myself, you hear all the problems straight off. This isn't right, and that's not right, and this, and him, and there, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so what's your part in it? How are you showing up in that business? Because nobody is neutral. We are all in that business for better or worse.
Yeah.
So if we sort our bit out, that's a good start.
It's a good start.
That's a good start. So that's what the Book of Job is about, to try and get people, particularly in business, although it would work for anybody, it applies to all human beings. And if there's any human beings, anybody that's listening that's not human.
That's not human.
Yeah,
there could be
it's not for them. That's what it's about, getting people to have a think about themselves. I suppose to stop the moaning. It's like, oh, poor me, nothing's going right. Well, what are you going to do about it?
Absolutely. So the book's out, your career, you've got a new career that you're enjoying. How do you feel about, you said at the beginning that businesses, we talked about change within a permanence, it's the same stuff, it's just slightly different. Do you think there's hope, there's positive things going on that you're seeing?
I'm always hopeful.
I know you are.
Because I think optimism is the only way. If you want to join the we're all doomed, I mean, there's plenty of those. There's plenty of those people. Because it's easy to get like that. It is easy to get like that. And we all have those days. You know, bit of a confession. We all have those days.
Yeah.
But my view is when you're having those days, don't go out. Don't spread it.
Yeah.
You know, just sit in your hole.
Sort it out.
And, you know, have a bad day and just keep yourself away from it. Don't go spreading it.
Yeah, you're right.
And yet anything is possible then.
I completely agree with that. If anybody's watching this that's like, think, you know, as a youngster, or maybe not so young, but thinking about starting their business, you know, what would you say to them was the number one?
I would say have a go.
Yeah.
Have a go. You were talking about Steve Jobs, and you could talk about Hewlett-Packard. I mean, they started in a garage, didn't they, Hewlett-Packard? So we think of businesses starting as big. They don't. They start with an idea.
And a person.
A human being who does not know he's going to be Steve Jobs. He didn't know that.
No.
So, yeah, have a go. You might fail.
So what?
So what? And if you can be prudent around the finances as far as it's possible to be, if you can kind of what I call suck it and see, try it without chucking all your chips at it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. But give it a go and do it when you're young, because you've got nothing to lose then. Actually, you haven't got a mortgage, you haven't got children, you haven't got other responsibilities. So give it a go, and even if you fail, you'll learn stuff.
Yeah, because it's only learning.
It is only learning. Give it a go.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Dale.
Thank you. Pleasure.
I'll see you soon.
Hope so.